So it's Saturday morning, mid-July, and I just went for a walk through the forest. Live up here in the National Forest, and coming home, got a project for today. There's the Beware of Daisy. There's my little pup. Anyway, you can see I got some tools out on the front porch. Brought them home. Go through the gate here. Got some sawhorses down there, cord and some hose. Got a few things I want to get done. But mostly what I want to deal with is the front door. Now this is the front entry to the house, kind of a front porch. And this is the door. And whoever built this house, I don't know, they were not professional or they were maniacal and hateful. they This front door is narrow. It's 32 inches wide. I don't like that, but I have to live with it. I can't widen it up because on this side there is a patio, and on the inside, on this side, there is a wall. And speaking of walls, just last week I took out the wall. The door used to swing against a wall right behind it, and I removed that wall. You can see the hole in the floor. I haven't repaired the tile yet because I have a few more things to do, and I've got to piece that in. That's one of the things I'm going to do today. But in this house, I think the guy who hung the doors and the electrician hated each other, because when I bought this house a couple years ago, and I've been working on it a couple years, it was a total wreck. Now it's only a partial wreck. But when I bought the house, every light switch was behind the door, and that light switch right there used to be in this wall that we've removed. And so I just pushed it back there, because what I'm going to do is I don't want the door swinging into this room. I want the door swinging up against this wall. I could change this door out. It'd be a good opportunity. But I really like this old timey door. It reminds me of the Shakey's Pizzas that we used to go to when I was a kid. Has that funky glass in it, and there's a few other places this house has that glass in it. This was built in 1967. That was already getting to be a dated look in 1967, so there's a lot of indications that this house was built by one, an amateur, and two, they were using either salvage stuff or maybe things that weren't selling for full price at that point, because there's some funkiness to it. But we've been correcting that as we've been going along. I've already made a lot of structural repairs to the house. I've corrected a lot of plumbing issues and electrical issues, but I'm starting to work on the aesthetics now, and that's the fun part. So first thing I'm going to show you about this door is these gaps on the side are nice and straight. Okay, and over here on this side, they're nice and straight. But up here at the top, if you look at it, it's a little higher on one side than it is the other. Let's go ahead and close it. It's a little, got a thicker gap on this side and a thinner gap on this side. And right in here, it looks like they trimmed it with a hatchet. And this is one of the things that make me think maybe they were using salvage materials when they built this house, because this door has been here from day one, I'm sure. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to scribe this right here, and I'm going to take off the hinges, because the hinges are going to go to the other side of the door, back and forth. And I'm going to mortise the hinges in. That's what that cut is called. It's called a mortise into the door and the jamb. I'm going to raise this door up to make it fit tight. So after I've scribed it and cut it, when I say I'm going to scribe it, that also implies that I'm going to cut it, which I'm going to do. I'm going to scribe it and cut it. I'm going to raise the door up, make it fit nice, which means I'm probably going to have to add a little something down at the bottom. The bottom already seems a little high, so I can glue a piece of lumber onto the bottom. Okay, then I'm going to sand and paint the door. I'll move the doorknob over, and I will take the cutout, that plug, and I will shim and glue it into this side so I can sand that out all smooth. Then the door will get painted. I'm going to redo the trim. I don't like that cheesy old cheap 60s trim, 1960s trim. And we'll have a nice new door. Hopefully I'll get that done today, and if I have a little more time, I will put another coat of drywall mud on the ceiling. It might be a little ambitious. I was planning on doing that in the evenings. It takes about 40 minutes to coat the ceiling. I like a smooth coat, but watch out, son. I don't really care to see the texture of the drywall. I like a smooth coat when I do ceilings, and hopefully we'll get that done this week. So let's get started on the door. I'm going to take a few minutes and gather up some tools and materials, set the camera in a place where you can see what we're doing, and then we'll work a little bit. So the first thing we're going to do is scribe. I've got this old kid's compass here, just what I had laying around the house. I want the pencil back a little bit so the set screw doesn't hold it, so I just taped it in place. So let's go up here, and you see why I want the pencil back. It's so that the point of the compass can be riding along the head of the jamb. There's our critical vocabulary. So you just make a pencil mark, back and forth a couple times. A little funkiness right here, so we're just going to skip over that and connect the lines. Now we're making a nice straight line out of that, and we have a nice straight top of the door. We won't have any more of this rough funkiness. I don't know where it came from. But next step is I'll drive these pins out. They don't have a hole in the bottom, so I got to get a screwdriver under here and just tap them up and out. And when I do that, I'll be able to pull the door off of the jamb. And the next time you see this door, it's going to be laying on the sawhorses. So we've got the door down here on the sawhorses. Let's go ahead and take the knob off. I didn't take it off before because it gave me kind of a handle to hold on to when I was moving the door. One screw. Two screws. Screws are always on the inside. Knobs have nomenclature too, or critical vocabulary. You always pull these apart. These are just simple kind of quick set knobs. This part of the knob right here, this flange that goes onto the door, that's called an escutcheon. That's a good thing to know. I don't like to lose the screws, so I will put them back in here, but let's go ahead and get the rest of the doorknob assembly out. This is the bolt, and this is a live bolt. It moves in and out. You hear of a deadbolt on your door? Well, that's a bolt that when you lock it, it won't move. And it becomes a deadbolt. Hey, that was kind of interesting. What was that? There's a little piece of plastic goes over. I don't remember ever seeing that before. What is that purpose? Don't know. Suppose I could look at it a while and figure it out. Just don't care to know. Let's go ahead and slide that together. This way, while we're waiting, I won't lose the screws. Probably going to get on Craigslist or eBay and see if I can't find a nicer handle for this door. It is the front of the house. It feels a little cheesy using this coming in. And I'll bet this is 30 years old at least. The house is 54 years old, 53 years old. could do the math. 54, 52, 52. I could do it several times. I'll finally get it. And these little screws here, I'll lose those. So to keep from losing them, I'm just going to go get a piece of masking tape and tape them to the doorknob. Okay, and let's go ahead and use the screwdriver and we'll take off the hinges from the door. One. Three. One hinge, got to do that 2 more times. You probably don't want to watch it. Yeah, probably. Edit the rest of this out. So let's cut the top of this off where we scribed it. I've got a couple tricks to that. We've got the mark. I'm going to use my old skill saw. I don't know. If you know what you're doing, you know that this is the best tool in the world to have. Had this skill saw forever. Now, this is my straight edge, and what it is I have 2 pieces of 1/2 inch ply, a bigger one and a smaller one. And a lot of times I go out on a job site, I don't want to take a table saw, or it's not convenient, or I just have to make one cut. I have this 8-foot straight edge, and the way it works is the table of the skill saw sits here, the blade runs right along that edge, and I clamp it down on this surface. So let's see if I can turn it up and you see it. When the guard is up, let's get it up, the blade is right against the plywood. And the way you get it that way is when you set this up, you make this piece much too big. This piece is on there, and you just run the saw through it, and it makes an exact edge for you. So it makes it really easy when you want to put it against a line. So there's the line we scribed. I just put that edge right against the line. And I'll just take these C-clamps and screw them down, holding the straight edge. And that's a real handy thing to make up for yourself. It's inexpensive, piece of 1/2 inch ply. I just waited till I found some scrap around. Oh, I want to put this upside the other way, with the handle down. And make sure we're on the line here. Oh, there we go. We're on the line. And plug the old skill saw on there, we'll run it through, and it'll cut it off perfectly straight every time. Probably should make up shorter one someday. I think I had one once. I don't know what happened to it. But this one, just keep it in the shed and pull it out when I need it. Okay, so I've got the guard up. Here we go. Maynard needs to lower his saw. Needs to lower the blade. Had it way up that high. Let's drop it down. Do that again. Woo! Not thinking too good there. Here we go. done that before. Ding dong. Anyway, had to get the blade down. And she's down, and she's cut nice and straight. Because this is pinching the door down, it doesn't have to, I don't have to worry about splintering. It's not going to splinter. It's just going to hold it down, and it's going to cut right through. Let's take it off. Hey. That one. That one. Go ahead and pull this out of the way. And that square edge, we need to dress that up a little bit. So I've got the sanding block, it's just a piece of plywood with a sanding belt on it. Handy, been using them for years. We're going to break that edge. Okay, I like that's cleaning out. Now I'll ultimately sand this door up real nice, paint it. It's not going to be this color, it's the color it was when I bought the house. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stick it in the hole, I'm going to shim it in place and mark where the hinges go. So what I've done now is I've just set the door in the hole, and I want to mark where the hinges go so I can go put them in. I've got a pretty nice line up here. I've got a nice line around the sides. It's just setting in there. I'm just going to take a couple of shims and I'm going to get the door exactly where I want it. Slide that one in there. Get some equal spacing. Okay. That. And I'm pretty good on the bottom here. There we go. Just right there. Right there. I got a little block of wood down on the bottom. And now it's just a matter of taking the hinge and I'm going to set it where I want it to be. It honestly doesn't really matter a lot. I'm just matching it up to the other side. I could get a tape measure out and get all crazy if I wanted to, but I don't. There's that one. Got a hinge here. Looks spaced about right to me. Go right there. Going to mark the top and bottom on both the door and the jamb. And we'll get one down here. Before we're done, we'll replace this crappy old molding, but anyway, that's where the hinges go. Over here on the right side of the door. Remember, this is going to be a right-hand door. Swing that way. A little bit later in the day, I ended up taking several hours off and going and talking to a client. But it cooled off a little bit. It was a warm day. It's almost 85 degrees up here, so that means it was over 100 down in the valley. And we'll take that out, and we're gonna mortise the hinges in both sides. So I gotta take that strike plate off, and I'll remove the hinges from here. So let's put it back outside, and we'll do some mortising. So I've just set the door up against the jamb so I can work on it. I have a door stand if I were out on a commercial job or something. I'm just set the hinge where I want it to be, next to the little marks I made. Make a pencil mark around it, no big deal. And if I were on a job putting in a new door, I'd go to the shop and I've got jigs that fit on top of the door, and I'd use a router to clean this out. But I like to show people how to do things easy without a lot of money, the way I used to do it when I was young and poor. Not that I ever got rich, but the way I would have done it when I was a kid. So we're just going around the pencil marks with a chisel, and I'm driving it down approximately what I feel like the thickness of that hinge is. Okay, got that. Now we have round corners in there. There's a simple solution to that. If I were doing it with the router would make it round. They all used to be square in the old days because everybody used a hinge, and you could still buy square hinges, but I'm using the ones that came with this door. This is a cabin, and I'm not going to get too uptight about it, but I just cut that circle down with the blade. That got me down deep enough. I might have to clean it up a little bit. That's okay. And we're going to just do this. We're going to go hit, across the grain. Do that about every 3/16 of an inch or so. Easy money. And kind of soothing. Pretend I'm back in the Civil War days doing this or something. Now, chisel has a taper here and it's flat on this side. If I set the taper up, the chisel's going to dig in. But if I set it down, it's just going to knock off and skim across the top. So I'm going to set that taper down in here. And just start cleaning it out. Okay, come back at it this way. Didn't think about that being in the way, did I? And I'm just going to take it by hand now and smooth it out. All Back this way. You can check a little more out. Looking pretty good. Let's get this off. Take the knife out there and get out of the corner a little deeper. Inside. So we got the door on there and fitting well, but we got several things to do yet. In particular, we got to plug this hole, and we need to put another one over here. Down here on the bottom, I noticed it's tighter here than it is over there, so we're going to put a square and a straight edge, and we're going to cut that off. And we're going to add, it's 3/4 there, and it's 5/8 over here. But we'll leave it when we add a piece on here. I'm going to cut it up here so I can add a nice solid piece and get some screws and glue through it. But when we put it on, we're going to leave it a 1/2 inch high so we can put a door sweep on it so that we have a nice gasket. Okay, other things we have to do at the very end, we're going to put some weather stripping around, and we have to patch all of these old mortises in. So I'm going to take the door off its hinges. I'm going to go set it on. I'm going to set it on the back porch and work on it. The sun's coming around here now, and I'll also sand it a little bit while I have it off, clean everything up. And I'll show you how to make these little patches. It's real easy. And how to add a piece at the bottom of the door. That's easy too. So I'm going to get the door off. I'm going to go set it out on the back patio. So I'm going to go ahead and cut me some little pieces of wood to go in here. You have to fight the temptation to do it with Bondo. Bondo's great, but it expands and contracts at a different rate than the wood, and it'll pop out, I guarantee you. I've tried it as a young man. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a thin piece of wood to put in there, and that's typically called a Dutchman when you do that. And so I've got an old piece of 2x4 here. I've got the saw set a little bit thicker than it needs to be, because after I glue it on, I'm going to sand it off. So let's go ahead and cut that. And I'm going to cut enough for both sides, the door and the jamb and the strike plate and the bolt. Yep. Huh. I'm plugged in and I'm not getting any power. Breaker must be off. Let's go get that. Alright, we got it plugged in. Let's see if it works now. Alright. So this little guy is a Ryobi table saw. I think I paid like 120 bucks for it. I've used this thing for years. And I can't say enough good things about it. I take it out on the jobs all the time. And, you know, it's a light duty saw, of course. And I've set it up here on my back porch up in the mountains. So, you know, I'm not down in the shop. Can't say enough about this. 10-inch blade, runs well, cuts everything. You keep a sharp blade on it and go through a 2x4 with it. So good for Ryobi. Good for anybody who bought it. I'm sure the Home Depot doesn't sell this anymore because it was actually a tool that works. They only want to sell cheap garbage that they can make money off of it. And I'm saying that because Sandy's been watching me make these videos, and I never lose my shit on the video, but she says that it would be better if I did. So, anyway, I've made those little pieces of wood, and we're going to cut them so they fit into the hinges over here. The hinges are over there, where the hinges used to be. These old mortises, we're going to cut them and fit them in there. We're going to glue them, and we're going to clamp them. And we're not going to fill that with Bondo. Fight that temptation. The Bondo will fall out. You'll be dealing with it a year and a half from now. And I don't want to deal with this after I put it up. Okie doke. Next deck, I'll get probably get a chop saw out and cut these up. So let's go ahead and cut the little fillers with a these are going to go in here. They're a little bit too high, a little bit too long. But they're going to go right in here, and got to cut them. So let's do that. I'll just going to do that on the table saw. I'm just going to make a pencil mark and cut them. So I'll go ahead and mark this at 3.5 inches. I'm just going to go to a speed square here. I'm just going to make a real quick mark. Don't really feel like breaking out chop saw for this. Little filler cuts. They don't have to be exactly perfect. Okay, let's cut them. So there you go. They'll be a little bit too fat, a bit too thick, a little bit too wide, but we will slide them in here, glue them, and sand them off when they dry. Yeah, it's going to be nice. I kind of made them just tight, so let's get some glue on here. If I were being really nutty about this, I'd probably go get a clamp and clamp it, but it's going to be fine. It's just a filler block. And plenty of glue on it. It's going to be fine. So let's do that a couple more times. Smooth it out with the bottle this time. Spread it out, I should say. I might have cut this one a smidgen too long. Let's see if we can't make it fit. There she goes. Perfect fit. Every time. One more. See if this one fits. So I'll let this glue set up for a few hours. I'll actually probably till this evening. Got to go into town and a doctor's appointment. So when I get back from that this afternoon, oh, you know what I need to do? Yes, those were round butt hinges, so I had squared off the roundness here. Okay, that's that. We'll let that set up, and then we'll sand it out this evening, hang the door, but we still have to plug where the old lock set was. So we'll roll it over. This door is heavy. I bet this door weighs 130, 140 pounds. I don't know if it's the glass or just in the old days I used to put lead in them or something. Okay, those are fine. I'm not going to worry about clamping them. So this lock set holes are always 2 1/8 inch diameters. This is an old hole saw that I took out of my hole saw kit. This was a cheap hole saw to begin with, it was garbage, but I can slide that hole saw almost inside of here, this one, which is 2 1/4. So I'll use this to cut a plug, and it'll fit right inside of here, because this is the size that will come out of it. So let me get a couple things together in a drill, and we'll do that. So the glue on the plugs and the Dutchman have dried. So let's just take the old belt sander here. Boy, it's been a great belt sander. Probably had this since I was 20 years old. Got some bigger ones. The little one gives me a little more control and stuff like this. to do for it for now. Get up here so you can see. Let's blow it off real quick. So the holes plugged up pretty well. I'll run a little fill over that. Got some, I'm gonna do this with hand sandpaper and maybe a little vibrator sander and smooth it up a little bit. I'll prime it, sand it, prime it, sand it. It's gonna be several times painting it. Anyway, I've got more time than money, so I'll just work with this old door. So let's just recap what we've done up to this point. I've used the hole saw to cut a plug and glued that plug into place. We let it set up. I hit it with the belt sander to smooth it out. I've also made these little Dutchmen, these little guys right here, glued them in place and sanded them off. And you can see over here where the old hinges were mortised in on the other side of the door. I've also made Dutchmen, plugged them, sanded them off, glued them in place and sanded them off. So it's time to go put this door back in the hole. I've also, the hole, I probably should say the jamb, but the door hole. In the jamb I've also cut these little Dutchmen and glued and sanded those. So next I'm going to go put the door back in the hole. So I thought I'd better show you the Dutchman and that I've sanded everything smooth. It's ready to receive the door. This side I plugged the old hole for the bolt. And after we hang the door, we're going to be drilling a new bolt hole here. So let's go hang the door. So I just slid the door on the hinges, drove the pins in, and it now swings the opposite direction that it used to swing. It's free, doesn't hit anything, it swings up against the wall the way it should, not into the room. And I can get to the switches without reaching behind the door, which is awesome. A lot of sanding and priming, and probably we'll just do that and show it to you when it's finished. You don't need to see it. I think I am going to show you drilling the lock set out. Drilling the hole for the lock set. You can see the Dutchman here in the door. It's smooth. And the little puppy Daisy's being naughty. She's barking at somebody. She doesn't do that a lot, but that's okay. There she goes. Hey, buddy. Come on, Tiger. But anyway, everything's sanded smooth. This will paint up nice. Once I pull this molding off, I'll go ahead and break these edges and smooth that out. And again, prime and putty as needed. You know, I have to get the little pilot hole filled. I'll do that with some putty. So probably the next thing I think I'll show you is drilling this out. I am going to take a little bit of time to see if I can find something a little nicer than what I have. I just have the most basic lock set. I'm going to see if I can find something with a handle. Really don't want to pay a bunch of money for it. I'm cheap, can't help it. Probably get on Craigslist, see if I can't find something. Seems like I always can when I need it. Okay, it's running, so just kind of hold it nice and steady. So it's time to put the lock set in. Got the little jig. It's a cheapo DeWalt jig, about as cheap as they come. 2 1/8 inch hole saw. Got another one for right there, so here we go. I'm looking at it. That's not cool. Come on. Hey, get down here. No. I'm going to drill a little bit further. I want the pilot bit to come through. all the way through it. That's good too. Turn off. Put this one on. Smoke, there's fire. Worst part about this is getting blocks of wood out of the holes. Saws. There you have it. I'll sand that up. I'll mortise this just like we did for the hinges, and we'll put the lock set on. So we're going to declare this turd polished. The door is hung. I put the old knob back on it. Still haven't found anything, but I will. I'm in no hurry. I've got more time than money. It opens and closes perfectly. And you can't see the Dutchman. You can just barely see the... There was another one down here, another on the bottom. They're all gone. I'm painting the interior of the house a little bit later, so we'll replace this molding before then and then paint the inside of this jamb. But the door, opens, closes, fits perfectly. And up the outside, like I said, I'm going to paint the interior of the house probably in a couple weeks. I'm doing some woodwork in there, replacing the moldings. Also put this screen on. It's one of those ones that rolls back. You can't even see it. And salvaged that off of one of my clients' jobs. It was a double screen. One of them was tore up, but I saved this one. Took the two pieces, rebuilt them, and turned them into one, and put it on there. So I got a nice screen too. So there you go.